Most women assume that when a man says, "You're too much for me," what he really means is, "I'm not interested enough." Sometimes that is true. Men have used confusion as an exit strategy since language was invented. But often, something more interesting is happening. He is interested, intensely interested. That is the problem. There are women a man wants because they make his life easier. They flatter his identity, soothe his insecurities, and ask very little of the version of himself he has already decided to be. Then there are women he wants because they disturb the entire arrangement. They make him feel exposed. They awaken ambition, jealousy, possessiveness, inadequacy, lust, fear, and the very inconvenient awareness that he may not be as in control as he has spent years pretending to be. And men do not always run from the women they do not want. Sometimes they run from the women they want most. By the end of this video, you'll understand why a man can pursue a woman with intensity, speak as if he has found something rare, then create distance the moment she begins to matter. You'll understand why some men become obsessed with the very woman they sabotage. And you'll understand the crucial difference between a man who is captivated by a woman's power and a man who has the inner structure to live beside it. Because attraction is not a peaceful emotion, not for someone whose ego is fragile. A man may tell you he wants a confident woman, an intelligent woman, a woman with standards, a woman who has her own life. It sounds noble. It sounds modern. It photographs well in a podcast clip. But wanting the image of such a woman and tolerating the reality of her are two entirely different psychological tasks. The image is flattering. He gets to see himself as the kind of man who can attract a formidable woman. Her presence becomes social proof. It enhances his status in his own mind. He feels chosen by something valuable. The reality is less comfortable. A woman with boundaries cannot be managed through charm alone. A woman with options cannot be controlled by vague promises. A woman who has seen life, who reads people well, who does not collapse at the first sign of withdrawal. She forces a man to confront the limits of his usual tactics. And that is where his desire can turn strange. He may become more attentive, then suddenly cold. He may praise your strength, then resent it when it prevents you from being easily influenced. He may say he loves that you are different, then behave as if your difference is a personal attack on his nervous system. This is not always calculated cruelty. Sometimes it is more primitive than that. A man can feel genuine attraction and genuine fear at the same time. Human beings are not tidy. The same person who moves toward pleasure can also destroy it, especially when pleasure threatens an identity he has worked hard to protect. For many men, identity is built around competence. Being the one who knows, leads, provides, decides, wins, remains unaffected. He may not say this out loud. In fact, the more loudly he claims he does not care about power, the more likely power has been quietly running his life from the basement. Then he meets a woman he cannot easily impress, predict, or dominate emotionally. Suddenly, attraction becomes a threat assessment. Now this is where most people misunderstand the psychology. They think a man wants a woman he can't handle because he enjoys the challenge. And yes, there is often an element of that. Desire feeds on difficulty. What comes too easily can feel less valuable. Not because people are noble, but because the mind is a rather cheap appraiser. It often confuses effort with worth. But the deeper issue is this. He wants her because she activates something dormant in him. She represents a level of life, emotional intensity, status, or self-command that he feels he has not earned. She becomes more than a woman. She becomes a symbol. And symbols are dangerous because they are never allowed to remain human. He may project onto her everything he craves. sophistication, freedom, emotional depth, sexual confidence, independence, beauty, social power. He does not merely desire her. He imagines that possessing her will settle an argument inside himself. If she chooses me, then I am enough. This is the hidden bargain. But when a man needs a woman to validate his worth, he will eventually resent the power he has given her, even if she never asked for it, even if she is kind, even if she has done nothing but exist with standards. That resentment often emerges in subtle ways. He delays commitment. He becomes inconsistent. He makes little criticisms disguised as jokes. He withdraws after intimacy. He creates uncertainty, because uncertainty restores his sense of control. If he can make her question where she stands, then perhaps he no longer has to question where he stands. It is a grim little psychological trick. Also, a common one. The man who feels small beside a woman has two options: grow, or attempt to make her smaller. Growth requires humility, patience, and sustained self-examination. Making her smaller requires one poorly timed text message and a sudden interest in taking things slow. You can see why the second option has such a loyal fan base. There is also a biological and emotional component to this. A man may interpret the anxiety produced by powerful attraction as evidence that the woman is uniquely meant for him. This resembles what psychologists Donald Dutton and Arthur Aaron explored in their famous 1974 suspension bridge study. Men who encountered an attractive woman after crossing a high, fear-inducing bridge were more likely to contact her afterward than men who crossed a stable bridge. The broader idea is called misattribution of arousal. The body experiences heightened activation, fear, excitement, adrenaline, and the mind can attach that intensity to attraction. Now, real human relationships are much more complicated than a bridge experiment. No serious person should reduce a man's entire emotional life to a shaky bridge and a phone number. But the principle matters. A woman who makes him feel emotionally uncertain, challenged, exposed, or elevated may create an intensity he mistakes for destiny. He says, "I've never felt this way before." What he may mean is, "I have never felt this destabilized before." Those are not the same thing. What happens next is where it becomes dangerous. Because a man can become addicted to the emotional charge of a woman he is not prepared to treat well. He pursues not a relationship, but an experience of himself through her. He likes the chase, because the chase allows fantasy to remain intact. In fantasy, he is the man who wins her. In reality, he would have to become the man who can sustain honesty, consistency, emotional regulation, and respect when he feels insecure. The chase is theater. Relationship is administration. And a surprising number of people love theater, but are deeply unqualified for administration. This is why some men are most intense before they have access to you, then most confused after they do. Distance allows them to idealize you. Closeness forces them to encounter you as a complete person, someone with needs, observations, limits, and the unsettling ability to notice patterns. A woman he cannot handle is often a woman he cannot reduce. He cannot turn her into a simple role: rescuer, admirer, accessory, audience, therapist, conquest. She remains psychologically independent. She has an interior world he does not control. And for a man used to receiving emotional comfort without offering emotional maturity, this can feel almost insulting. He may begin calling her intimidating. Pay attention to that word. It is often used as if the woman has committed some kind of atmospheric crime, as though she walked into the room carrying a briefcase full of threats. But intimidation is not always caused by what someone does. It is often caused by what they reveal. A woman can intimidate a man simply by making visible the gap between who he believes he is and how he actually behaves. She does not need to lecture him. Her standards do the talking. Her unwillingness to chase does the talking. Her calm response to his inconsistency does the talking. Nothing unsettles a person more than discovering that their old methods no longer produce the old results. And if you're trying to understand these dynamics in a more personal, specific way, one-on-one coaching, along with monthly and yearly coaching options, is available through the link in the description. The point is not to hand you a collection of scripted responses. It is to help you identify recurring patterns, understand the leverage operating beneath your relationships, and stop mistaking emotional chaos for depth. If you order, check your spam or promotions folder for the confirmation and access details, and subscribe to the newsletter for discounts and updates. Now, another uncomfortable truth. Some men want women they cannot handle, because being near them offers a temporary escape from mediocrity. A man may have built a life that is comfortable, but emotionally numb. He knows how to perform competence at work. He knows how to be amusing among friends. He knows how to maintain just enough charm to keep attention circulating around him. But internally, he feels stalled. Then a woman enters who is vivid, self-possessed, hard to impress, perhaps even slightly dangerous to his self-image. She becomes a disruption. She makes him feel alive. But instead of understanding that she has exposed his hunger for a fuller life, he decides she is the answer to it. He tries to possess the source, rather than develop the qualities it awakened in him. This is why he can be so magnetic and so destructive at once. He is not simply pursuing her. He is trying to capture a feeling. And feelings cannot be captured. They can only be experienced, understood, or avoided. When he cannot possess the feeling permanently, he may blame the woman. Suddenly she is too demanding, too independent, too emotional, too unavailable, too hard to read. Notice how convenient these labels are. They allow him to convert his own incapacity into her defect. The ego is a brilliant lawyer. It can defend almost anything, provided it never has to tell the truth. This does not mean every man who hesitates is secretly overwhelmed by an extraordinary woman. That fantasy has trapped plenty of people in relationships with men who were simply ambivalent, careless, or interested in attention without responsibility. The point is not to romanticize his inability to handle you. A man's turmoil may explain his behavior. It does not transform inconsistency into devotion. It does not make avoidance profound. It does not turn emotional unavailability into a tortured love story. Intensity is not evidence of capacity. Read that again mentally, because many people spend years confusing the two. The man who can handle a powerful woman is not necessarily the loudest, richest, most confident, or most dramatic. He is the man whose ego does not require her to become smaller for him to feel secure. He does not worship her one week and punish her for being human the next. He does not need constant proof that he is in control. He can tolerate her autonomy without interpreting it as rejection. That is rare, because it requires a man to have already negotiated with himself. And most people would rather negotiate everyone else into submission first. So when a man seems drawn to you, yet destabilized by you, understand the possible mechanism. You may represent a desire he has not matured enough to carry. You may activate his longing for status, closeness, conquest, validation, or transformation. You may be the mirror he wanted, until the mirror began reflecting accurately. That does not make you magical. It makes you inconvenient to his illusions. And illusions, when threatened, often become aggressive. If this video gave language to something you have witnessed, subscribe and like the video. And I want to know in the comments, have you ever seen a man become more distant precisely when the connection became more real? And what did he do when he felt he was losing control? Also, order the feminine game through the link in the description. After purchasing, check your spam or promotions folder so you do not miss the delivery email. And for deeper weekly breakdowns, subscribe to the new channel, X-Pimp Explains Men Masterclass, where new 50-minute videos are uploaded every week. Because the most revealing thing about a person is not what they pursue when it is easy. It is what they do when they finally encounter something they want and discover they cannot control it.